Hey guys, welcome back. I'm just sitting out here in my backyard, just chilling, enjoying Mother Nature, listening to the birds. Kind of a rainy day, but it's okay. I was on my walk coming from shooting a video and I was thinking about inflation. Inflation has been all the rage over the last 5 years. And I'm thinking to myself, where is all this inflation coming from? I've got some thoughts on where I think it's coming from, but you guys let me know what your thoughts are. Where's the inflation really coming from? Now, I think probably the number one area where inflation does come from is our government. We spend money like there's no tomorrow. There's no limit to that credit card. They'll just print as much money as they need. And that is one of the primary reasons why we had this massive inflation spike. And we had low interest rates, so that made it real easy for people to go out and get cheap money. So that's probably number one reason. You guys let me know in the comments below if you agree with that or not. And we've heard economists and famous CEOs say that same thing over and over and over. So we do know that that is a primary driver of inflation. But what are the other reasons for inflation? I've been pondering it. I think it might be two main reasons, and let me get your guys' take. So I think that there's two core economies in the United States, one being the state of California, and the other is New York. Okay, New York has mostly the finance type of markets, sales, marketing. That's what they make there, and that's where all the big money goes. And then you got California. What's over in California? Big tech. You got big tech on this side of the ocean, and then you got finance, banking, and sales marketing over on this side, on that ocean, the Atlantic. And I think that most of this inflation we've seen throughout the entire country has been from New Yorkers and Californians selling out and moving across our country. That's really what I think has happened from a bigger picture perspective. All that wealth that was built up over the last 20, 30, 40 years, where the housing prices in Manhattan and the boroughs, the 5 boroughs in New York, and the housing prices of California have been growing exponentially, right? And what happened? During the pandemic, all these people sold out, they bailed, they liquidated their entire positions, and they moved all across the country and bidded up areas that had never seen this type of bidding for houses, because the people in California and New York, they wanted some peace and quiet. And they had the ability to do so because they were able to work remotely. And a lot of jobs, I think, are still done remotely. I mean, some jobs are going back to work. We've seen some of the news cycles where, Amazon's sending their people back to work. Same thing with Tesla and all that jazz. But I still think the vast majority of new jobs and even older jobs, they never went back to work. And so all these people from California and New York, they spread across the country and they bidded it up. Now we're starting to see some of that bidding come down because of, interest rates. The Federal Reserve raised interest rates, and finally, we saw a softening of some parts of the economy, or the housing market for that matter. So I think that's a big part of why we saw inflation happen the way it did. I think it all came from California, New York, maybe New Jersey as well. Let me know what you guys think. Is that maybe one of the reasons? But I've got another hypothesis as to where I think inflation is coming from. And hear me out. I think it has to do with people not having children anymore. I really do. I think you've got probably 2, maybe 3 generations now that don't have any children. You've got the baby boomers who are kind of, obviously, they're probably not spending their money as much, but there could be some out there that are still bidding up houses. Okay, they're retiring in glory, with their massive stock market gains over the years. Okay, but then you've got Gen X. Okay, Gen X, which some people say 1980 is the end of Gen X, which is where I'm at. They're all retiring. I'm 45. I'm not about to retire, but half that generation is retiring, and they don't have kids either. They're done. They're living it up. They're bidding up all the McMansions around the country. You know, they've got all the stock market gains. They're liquidating those stock market gains. Okay. They've got required minimum distributions now. All that wealth that has built up is getting taken out, and they're going and spending their money. They're going on cruises. They're going out to dinner. As soon as, lockdowns were over, it was party time for that generation. That's where a huge amount of inflation came from. But where's another one? I think you've got millennials and Gen Z. That is a huge cohort which are not having children, and it's in the numbers. We've got a 1.5, child replacement rate now, which is not even the official replacement rate of humans. You have to have 2.1 children per family to replace the population. We're at 1.5, guys. And so you've got all, a bunch of young people that are working probably good jobs, making good money on YouTube, hustling, making tons of money on YouTube, probably, or TikTok. All this money is coming their way, and they're not having children. So what are they doing? They're going out and buying new cars, going out and bidding up houses, one house, two houses, who knows? Maybe they've got 3 cars. They just spend money like it's no tomorrow. Going out and whining and dining, going on lavish vacations. That's why you have all this inflation. That money's got to go somewhere that the government printed. I think people who have children, they're more cautious with things. They have liabilities. They're not out spending their money on lavish new cars and big ticket purchases like houses. They can't afford to do so. Okay? It's kind of like I feel like people who don't have children anymore are bidding up their own environment at the end of the day. They're all bidding up against each other to have material things at the end of the day. Now, I'm just as guilty. I have material things. I buy stuff left and right, but not much lately. I don't spend as much money as I used to when I didn't have kids. When I didn't have kids, me and my wife were going on vacation left and right. We went to Hawaii a few times. We went to Telluride. We went to Colorado. We would always be whining and dining and going out and traveling, and we didn't care one bit about buying a new car. But now that we have kids, we don't spend our money at all. Honestly, we're very cautious about it. And I think a lot of other families who have children are like that. They know that times are tight. You cannot afford to spend your money. Whatever extra money you have, you need to sock that away, because your kid's going to be having some medical sickness problem, or your kid's going to need something for their baseball or their school. I mean, every week it's something new with school. You're always, donating to some cause or spending money on some activity. I don't think that's what causes inflation. Inflation is when people keep bidding it up, and bidding it up. And that's what people do. They just don't stop spending their money. And you can see it. They keep just spending their credit cards out left and right. What are they spending it on? If they don't have kids, if we're only having 1.5 kids per family, where's all the money going? It's not on kid stuff. It's on adult stuff. It's on cars. It's on boats. It's on, doing home improvements, spending 50 grand, 60 grand on home improvements because they're watching all these hoity-toity home improvement shows on HGTV. They want to live this lifestyle that's not a reality. And so that's what happens. People bid it up, man. Bid it up. Keep bidding it up. I don't know, man. I just think that that's a big reason why we've got all this inflation. And there's nothing that we can do to stop it, If people don't want to have kids, and that's the thing about kids too that people don't realize is you think they're expensive, but they put you in a routine. They put you in a routine to where you don't have time to go out and go spend your money on lavish vacations. You don't have time to go spend your money on going out to eat because you're so exhausted from all the school activities. You don't have time for that, honestly. So I find it interesting that people say that having children is the most expensive thing. It might be opposite. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the opposite. If you don't have kids, you just go spend your money on anything. Just go blow your money. When you have kids, you think about things more. You really do. You get tight on your budget. You don't go out to eat a bunch. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Am I wrong? You know, is this the wrong approach when it comes to why people just keep spending their money? I don't know. You know, we all do it. I'm just as guilty. I spend money as well, but I feel like my kids hold me back from spending money a lot of times. So, you know, who knows? When I retire, maybe I'll go and, you know, hike up the inflation. I'll help everybody out, bid everything up, because I won't have kids at that point. But maybe not. Who knows? We'll see. So anyways, if you guys could, like and subscribe for the content if you like the content, and take a look at my previous video if you could. And thanks, guys.